Well, good morning, everybody. And as you can tell, we have a fantastic guest this morning, Kim Sweers. Now, Kim is one of the most, I'm going to say one of the most incredible individuals that I've had the opportunity to be introduced to. We were introduced by our common friend, Stu Goffman, over there at Addiction Unplugged. And it was, once he started talking about incredible people, he brought up Kim. And Kim, I want to, so you can stop me anytime, Kim, but first of all, you're a cancer survivor. I would have never in a million years thought, nope, you're not a cancer survivor, because she is also the managing partner and owner of FB Marine. But then she has a podcast called The Boat Boss. And that's right on her shirt, The Boat Boss. But she doesn't stop from there. She also goes on and she has her hands into a ton of other entrepreneurial activities. And on top of that, her most important priority, which she emphasizes all the time, is a mother and a wife. So this is a massive juggling act. I love hearing that, Kim. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Honor's ours, especially because I don't know if you knew this, but Stokemeter started as a way to interview wakeboarders.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So my brother-in-law is like a famous, world famous, in the Hall of Fame water skier. Peter Fleck. He's Peter. Yeah. So the one fun fact that people don't know about me until they're thrown into the situation, I have an identical twin sister. And when you see her and you see her with her husband, people are like, it's like, what's going on? It's Kim. It's not the guy that she's, married to. So it's really a funny story. But yeah, Peter is one of the world's greatest barefoot water skiers, has a very accomplished career. And he's, it's amazing how I sit in conferences and some people have a Mastercraft shirt off and I'm like, hey, my brother was sponsored by Mastercraft. I'm like, oh, who is he? I'm like, Peter Fleck. They're like, Peter Fleck? It's just Peter, guys. It's really just Peter. They're like, oh my God. So he's a very famous dude, and I'm honored to have him to call him my brother-in-law.
Oh, well, it's really cool to just see that the person is a person, right?
Yeah. And he is married to my better half, my sister. So my twin sister, who's known me since day one or before day one.
Well, talking about twins, Gary has twins and I have twins as well.
Oh wow, that's so cool. There's a connection. I love it.
All these connections. Cool.
Well, we have definitely have some twin stories to tell, but I'm sure mine trump yours for sure.
Well, ours are fraternal. There's no, I could only imagine the kind of crazy stuff that you played on folks.
Yeah. We used to go into the restroom if, we're like, let's just change clothes and you can, so we would switch dates and we would, the best thing is and one thing you'll know about me is I love to work really efficiently and effectively. And so I wasn't getting the school stuff down, so many hours of studying, and we were athletes as well in high school and then throughout college. But I said, listen, we're identical. We have uniforms at our Catholic school. So why don't you take half the classes and I'll take half the classes? So don't ask me where Wyoming is on the map, because I can't tell you. My sister took that. No, I'm joking. I can definitely, but my point being is that she took certain classes, I took certain classes, and we did really well through high school on a very efficient, plan as utilizing our twinship.
That's awesome.
It's fantastic. Well, the other thing too, I'm looking at that sign behind you. Your life is 100% your responsibility. And looking at the success you've had, it's obvious that you have taken that to heart. I'm just wondering, what can you tell us about that? I mean, it's obviously there for a reason, but can you expound on that?
Well, I truly believe that whatever decision you make is one that you should, think about. Obviously, decisions can happen quick, or not, but it needs to be the right decisions. And so I've always made the decision, is the decision you're making, do you want to explain that to your son or your child, or, and so I always look at every decision as, will it make the news? Will I have to explain myself, And so I'm really that type of person. I reflect a lot every day. I wake up in the morning and I pray about, the day ahead. I don't pray for things. I just pray for wisdom, strength, health. That's it. I keep it very clean, very quick. I don't pray for things like I used to. And then at night before I go to bed, I reflect. I reflect on every single day, basically in blocks. Like I woke up, then I went and I did, my workout. Was my workout good? What could I get from it? I had breakfast. Was it good? Basically, my point being, every meeting I'm in, I reflect on that at night, listening to some really cool music, spa music, no TV, and I reflect on every single situation that day. And I believe that we're all put into a situation for a reason, and you have to find the message and you have to learn from it, whether it be good or bad. So your life is, yes, 100% your responsibility. And that's what I think. We have to analyze it. We have to make sure that we learn from it and get 1% better every single day.
I love that.
Wow. All right. Okay. Drop mic.
That's literally a mic drop right there.
No, that's actually amazing. I was watching some of your just different stuff that you had on YouTube and stuff like that. And I turned to my wife and I was just like, here is someone, and if I had to boil you down to 2 words, it's no excuses.
Right.
There's
Yes.
no victim mentality in your existence at all.
There's really no excuses and no limits, period. People say to me all the time, you're going through life so fast. The reason why, it's not that I go through fast, I'm always in front, and there's no competition with me. I don't really analyze what my competitors are doing. I look into myself. How can I be 1% better every day? Small goals equal big goals. And so for me, I look at the future. Okay, we're all driving the car. A lot of people adjust that mirror. Kim Sweers never adjusts the mirror because I never live life looking in the rear view mirror. I learn from every analyze it, store it up here, and then move forward.
Man, you're better than Tony Robbins, man. This is great.
All right, but I have to ask real quick. So let's put that rearview mirror up just for a second. And the reason I want to do that is because, again, after I've looked at so many of your things, there's a huge story behind Kim Sweers.
Yep.
I want to go back. I want to rewind and just in your terms and what you think is important, what you think is relevant. Bring us up from when you were a kid a little bit. Tell us, how did you get to be this dynamic person that we're talking to right now? That doesn't happen by accident.
Well, it started in the womb. When you think about it, you're an identical twin. And literally my twin sister, I came out back then, and I want to tell you how old I am, but back then, ultrasounds didn't really exist, so my sister was one of us was laying on top of the other. They only heard one heartbeat. My mom had us at 26 weeks. So as you know, a normal term is 40. So I was far premature. And when they came out, there's a under 3 pound baby. I think we were 2 pounds, ended up being 1.5 pounds after, baby drops after they're born. So they're like, what the heck? This woman went into preterm labor and there's this little piece of chicken here. And, and then 2.5 minutes later, my sister popped out. But the point of my story is I had a footprint all over my head. And so basically, I was kicked out of the womb, So,
literally.
You know it was to be stepped on before you.
Yeah. So that was basically the last time anyone really stepped on me.
That is great. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I know that Gary, it's a longer story, but I have to ask you, with the free in your head, I'll tell you another story in a second here, but how have you been true to you? Because you have been in in all of these endeavors, you've created some amazing things, and it's easy to get caught up with the comparing yourself with the Joneses, or just comparison overall. How did you stay true to you?
Yeah, like I said, you have to ask yourself, is this something that you're going to be proud of? Is this something that's going to make the news in a negative way? You know, you have to have some sort of higher being. And for me, you know, I'm a faith-based person, whether it's your universe, whether it's your, you know, your faith, whatever, you have to have some sort of moral, you know, basis, or you have to have an impact in the world. You know, Steve Jobs said, leave your spot in the world. And for me, I'm leaving a big spot. We're talking a big circle. And for me, that's what drives me every day. What puts my feet on the floor every day is, they say two things, a sentence, that there's 2 days. 2 best days of your life are the day you were born and the day you know why. And for me, I know that I was born for a reason, and I get that we all are. We just have to find your gift. You have to find that gift, and you have to share that gift, because that's your legacy. And a lot of people don't realize that if you don't have a legacy, then why are we here? We're all here for a greater purpose. And so for me, early on, I always was a coach. You know, I would coach everyone I could talk to. I was always like, you know, positivity. And it gets to the point, I think, where my husband, you know, and all my teams like, okay, turn it down a little bit. Can I turn that down? And so, and I do, but for me, especially after cancer, in 2014, when you are given another day, the first words out of your mouth or in your brain should be thank you for another day, because you don't know when today will be your last day. And so for me, that's what gets me out of bed. The second thing that gets me out of bed is if there's a problem, or there's a space, if you will, that really doesn't exist, I want to create it. I want to fix that problem. And so I've always been a serial entrepreneur mindset, even though I come from corporate America, but I've always been a problem solver. And people can create problems, but whether they actually plan them out right and implement them, analyze it, you know, and then measure it, I go through the whole thing. It's been a great gift I've been given, is not only to think it, but to create it, to implement it, and then measure it, control it. I do all that good stuff. So I love it.
I'm looking down because I'm keeping notes. It's not because I'm not liking looking at this. I'm literally just taking copious notes. Go ahead, Gary.
I've always wanted to be a motivational speaker. I never have time, but I mean, would people actually pay to hear me? I don't think so, but you know.
Oh, I know so. I know so.
Sure.
I absolutely know so. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, thank you.
Gary, you had something you're about to ask there.
Oh no, I'm just saying, I'm still back at the forehead thing. I want to hear the rest of your formative years.
So from my childhood, modest beginnings, 7 kids in my family. And although my grandparents they weren't well off, they just were entrepreneurs. And if you say, where do you get your drive? And it was my grandfather. He was an amazing man, and I spent a lot of time with him because my parents worked 2 jobs, and I watched him have many businesses. He had a wig business, he had eyelashes, so I had these really long eyelashes, and fake stuff. And so he created a fake eyelash company called Kim Carey. And that was based on, he's always looked at things and says, wow, you have great eyelashes. If I could create something like that. And he created that. He created a wig business. Because my grandmother was spending so much money at the hair salon. He was like, you know what? If I create wigs, then she doesn't have to get her hair done every few days. So my grandfather played a huge impact on me. And he took it so far as to run for office, never made it to above local government, but I always wanted to run for some sort of office. But given how crazy the world is, it's something that I'll support those that we share the same platform. But for me, politics has been put in the closet for now, not something. But my point being is my grandfather was my biggest influence. He would trade stocks all day long. And so I became a stockbroker. Part of my career was right out of college, I became a ocean rescue lifeguard. I'm a distance swimmer.
That's
Yeah,
intense.
yeah, Baywatch. You know, I swam from 4 years old through college, and did not have any debt going into college because of a scholarship. And I loved swimming, and it taught me great discipline. There's a lot of time if a lot of team sports are great because you have that team, but in swimming, your face is in the water. You're not communicating except when you're at in between a set, and you're trying to talk and you're trying to breathe at the same time, which is a little difficult. But for swimming, for me, it taught me a lot to think, strategize, manifest, all that stuff, because that's what you do, when you swim as much as I did. And I swam twice a day. And being a distance swimmer, I swam many miles a day. So that's where I get that mindset from. So carry on into, after I graduate high school, I go in to become an ocean rescue lifeguard. Loved it, but I knew that I would look like 80 by the time I was 30 with all the sun. So I need to find something else. And I became public information officer and grant writer for the city of Miami Beach, where I was working as a lifeguard. They saw great things in me. I'm like, do you think I just had a big mouth and I like to talk? That's why you made me as public information officer. So I was good in front of the camera. And so I became public information officer, and I can really write a mean story. So I did grant writing with it and really excelled in that. And then union jobs, basically, when they had budget cuts, the union people were saved and the non-union got. So there was my experience in local government. And from there, I went to be a stockbroker at Prudential, enjoyed that until it's just very stressful. There's crazy, there's one thing that I can ruin my own reputation, but when the market goes down or when something happens, Prudential had some really bad real estate investment trusts. There was a book written on it called Serpent on the Rock. It was a tough thing to deal with, losing people's money when it wasn't my fault. Yeah. So I moved on from there to creating data networks around the world. National account manager for Sprint. I loved it because it was such a great challenge. Building, back then we didn't have the cloud like we have now. We were building private lines, VPNs after that. And so it's a really hard position. And I had a great team that I relied on, traveled a lot, built networks around the world, then got hired by one of our clients and brought really his whole network from the network access point in Miami into South America, and did that for a few years. And then an opportunity arose where I met Randy at a charity event, and we ended up talking about his business, and I was able to analyze the difference between a broker and a dealer. And that makes a big thing. A broker basically it's like a real estate agent, where they buy and sell and they get that commission. Or if you're a dealer and you own your inventory, profit margins are a lot higher. So we created a dealership model together, and I invested in it. We ultimately got married in 2002, and I became the lead person in regards to the operations side of the business. Let Randy sell. And then I was really in charge of, still am, all of operations for our dealership. So I've been in business 28 years, and now FB Marine Group. I'm actually only a few years older than that. So. Yeah.
I love it. That is amazing. Keep on going. Sorry.
Yeah. So we're one of America's top 100 dealers. There's 4,000 dealers in America. We're one of the top 100, like the Forbes and Fortune 100. That's what we are. Yeah. And we're certified, what they call Marine Retailers Association, which is like NADA. The MRAA gives you a certification that you have to follow, processes, procedures. Your culture has to be right. There's so many different things you have to do in order to win a 5-star dealer certification. Right. And we have won that as well. There's only a few hundred of those in the world. So we're one of those. So we believe in excellence. You lead with, you take that organizational chart, which has Randy and I at the top, you turn that org chart upside down. And what really is important is the front line. If the front line is miserable, then your clients are not, they're not happy, and they're not delivering an amazing customer experience. So we put as much bang into our people. We develop them personally and professionally. I know all their children, by name, if I haven't met them, what drives them, what goals they have. We break their goals down into mini goals, as how they can afford a BMW, blah, blah, blah. We break that down and we really get granular with their goals. And then we analyze them and we make sure that they're on track to meet them. And then they get their reward upon meeting them. So we have lifers here. We have people that have been here, 17 years and 15 and 10. And so it's not a job, it's a career here. And I believe when I was with Sprint as national account manager, and I wasn't, even though you start every month at zero, you're always wondering, am I gonna lose my job? So I always wanted to build a culture of safety and one of development. So that's my goal here, is build up my people as much as possible so that they feel comfortable, that they can never say, am I gonna lose my job? They're here for a career, not just a job.
So listeners are probably sick of this, but I was in HR for years, and building cultures or learning and development, training development, organizational development, all that stuff. And when you look at what you're doing with the people in that flipped model, that's gigantic. Because if I was to look at a majority of the failures, it's because the dollar came first, above the people, everything else, and they ran out.
During the pandemic, not to interrupt, but I wanted something that really drove me during the pandemic was phones. Obviously, what happened. I have to remind you, March 12th, 13th, right around there is when the shit hit the fan, and we were like deciding what to do, because we've been in business so long. We've had 9/11 recessions. We've been through cancer with me. We've been through all these different cycles. I'm like, is this another one? Are we gonna make it? Are we gonna go out of business? And so I could see the fear in our people's faces. They were like, oh my God, I support my mom, my kids, schools are closed, my parents are out of work, I'm out of, I might be out of work. And so I took a picture. I sent a mass email out, like, send me photos of your children, your family, please, as soon as possible. And so I have this great app that allows me to do a collage, and I put all of them in a big, and printed that collage and put it in my office. And every time I looked up, I saw the faces of families that if we didn't make it, it would be that mass ripple effect that I didn't want to be accountable for, or be responsible for. So that's what was my why. That's what put my feet on the floor every day. And I slept, I think, 3-4 hours a night during that time, and it was all for them. It was all for the people and their children. So that's what really got me through. The PPP money was a big help, obviously, but we had to act quickly. And if I can give anyone a word of advice, if you do not know your numbers in your business and you are not organized, somebody says, I need to see your financials like in the next 5 minutes, and you do not have access to them, there's a big problem. Houston, we have a problem. So we were able to go in. I sent, everything that I could quickly, and the bank was like, I've never seen a company that talking to the boss, man. You're talking
to say that you're awesome is an understatement, because and the reason I say that is all right, backed by data. The fact that you put the people there, that you are invested in them, and understanding that is what brings your business to the forefront and creates the culture that's a unified culture. Everyone's on the same page. They know that you have their back. They have each other's back. Just look at what's going on right now.
Yeah,
that's all you have to do. It's insane to see that, and to know that you and Randy are doing that. Holy moly, man. Because Gary worked at a boat shop when he was in college.
Well, I was gonna say, this is exciting for me just because of that experience that I did have, because I'm really old also. Maurice and I are old.
Old.
Yeah. So I worked back in the day when, so we, like I sold Malibu and, Sea Ray and all that type of stuff. But back then, it was almost like the transition between marine sales was still kind of in its slimy era.
Yeah.
It was just kind of gross. You know what I mean? It was
is.
extremely male dominated at the time. I remember at one point, I can't remember what she did. She was a gal in finance, and she said, "Hey, like, tell me about this boat, like, kind
Yeah.
of show me what you do." And
Yeah.
and just talking with her, I'm like, I went to our general manager, CEO, whatever, and I was like, she needs to sell. Like, she is stellar, you know what I mean? And he's just like, but anyway, it's kind of cool to see, especially, first of all, I know that you do a lot with women and that type of stuff in the
Yeah.
industry, which I think is great. But like when you say flip it upside down, you guys really are. And I want to emphasize that, because it used to be top down, do what I say,
Yeah.
don't care about the people. This is all corporate, you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
was there when a big conglomerate that shall remain unnamed came in and bought the dealer, and it got worse. And
Right.
and the reason is because of what you're talking about. It was a top down. I see so many people that we talk to that are successful is because they see themselves as a support. It's almost like a bottom up approach, like you're talking about.
No, absolutely. We so every morning I have a frontline meeting, and we talk about certain subjects, where I shoot a video out to the team, and it is important to be transparent in an organization, because if the bottom doesn't know what the top's doing and vice versa, there's that big disconnect, and that's where danger it happens. We're only 30 members in our family, so we don't have a ton of middle managers, so I have that luxury of getting to know my people. And so this morning's topic was I did a post yesterday about how this workforce shortage has seriously hit the marine industry. And in South Florida, it's a $12 billion industry, 120,000 jobs. And there's a ton of jobs that are open that we can't seem to fill. And so we have created, it will be announced hopefully next week, an amazing solution to this problem. But it's not just women. If you look at the amount of white males in the marine industry, it's skewed. And so we are focusing on breaking down the barriers and creating opportunities and equal playing fields for everybody. And that's pretty much, you'll hear more next week. I'm beyond excited, and we should definitely have another episode on it where I can get
yes, absolutely.
The movers and shakers that were involved in creating this. It basically was something that, as a business owner, people were like, how did you create this program, the solution? And it really came from reflecting at night, and how we used to have the phones would ring constantly. People would walk in and say, I love what I see online. I love your culture. You have the most amazing, uniforms, and your people love you. I want to work for you.
Yeah.
And that started to just dry up. And I had already heard other dealerships complaining about it a long time earlier. This is way prior to the pandemic. And I was like, oh no, they just walk in and they're like, you don't have a recruiter? I'm like, no, they just walk in. They're great, great technicians. And it's like the fiddler, I'm fiddling and
yes.
and that stopped. And so we felt we were sort of writing on the wall, didn't know what to do. Then the pandemic hit, and it even got worse. But what it amounted to is that kids were told that college was the only way to make a ton of money and to really have a great career and provide for your family, but forgetting that tradesmen are also just as successful.
Mm-hmm.
Not every child is meant to go to college. And so we have created an amazing solution which will really transform and save our industry as well as many other industries. So this will be the model that we're going to roll out here in South Florida, and then we're going to Clearwater, Tampa area next, and then nationwide. So we're pretty excited about this. And I know that there's a lot of people that are really excited about the program as well. They're like, just announce it already so we can get going. But the first group starts next month. and
Nice.
we hope to create a lot more equal playing field opportunities for really Latinos, for African American, for women, from white males, everyone,
Yeah.
to really have a successful career in the marine industry, because it really is so much fun. I mean, who doesn't want to go on a boat all day and work on a boat?
You know, this is killing me, because I just want to know what it is. Just know what my background and such.
Yeah.
This is something that people can benefit immediately, not only in your industry, it sounds like, but every industry, because you're hitting it at the core level, and it's not. Tell me if I'm wrong, but it's not just focusing on one group. This is a holistic approach that benefits everybody, and you don't hear that anymore, right? So
no, definitely. There's if you know, in this morning's meeting, I said, look around our shop here, and how many, look at our numbers. We are the poster child for a diverse and inclusive organization. Our culture screams teamwork. All of you, look where you all are from. And they were like, yeah, they're so excited. And that's what we need to drive home. We need to drive home the point that, you know, everyone deserves a chance. And so by creating classifications in your hiring, that, you know, this person falls into, you know, one of these four, and then you put them on a development path and a pathway to masters, as we call it. That's what you want. You know, you don't want to say, oh, I'm sorry, you walked through the door and you don't have enough experience, bye-bye.
Yeah.
You know, have that kid come in, work with you for a little bit, you know, test him, see what he's capable, or her, and then make that decision. But to just turn them away because they don't have it already, that's the problem that we're having. It's
a mentoring program. You have a mentoring program. And this is scary, because we just interviewed someone the other day named Eileen Koo, who runs something called the Opportunity Network. And this is a lot what they do. They identify kids in underrepresented communities, and they match them with people. And it goes from 10th grade all the way to their first job. And it's really a lot like what you're talking about here too. That's ironic, isn't it, Garrett?
Well, it sounds to me like they need to be put in contact with each other.
Oh, I know. That's exactly. I think that
it's a perfect segue between, you know, because they kind of they bridge the gap between, you know, high school, if they go to college or whatever, to their first job. And then you guys grab them, give them the training and the, you know what I mean? You kind of test them and see what they're, yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, we would definitely need to connect with Opportunity Network for sure. Opportunity's knocking. There you go. There you go. Well, and that's what's so cool about, you know, I've said this with my administration quite a bit, in the sense that there's going to be a new norm. Things are, you know, when things go bad, and I've seen this in your some of your YouTube stuff as well, Kim, is when things go bad, you can either be the victim and say the sky's falling, whatever, or you can say, what's the solution? What can we do? And how can we come out on the backside of this better? And this sounds exactly like, you know, you guys were like, we could be dying on the vine. So yeah, you kind of have a couple of options. You could double down on what you've been doing that's not working. You know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely. Or you say, I'm not going to be the victim. Let's come up with a solution. And it sounds like you guys have something that's awesome. No, you're definitely responsible for your destiny. And if you know, if it doesn't exist, you need to create it. And that's the mindset. I create business models in my brain all day long. And, you know, people that are closest to me are like, oh God, here she goes again. You know? And so, you know, I don't drink much. That's another, we Maurice, you and I had that conversation about how sharp and I am. And a lot of that comes from sleeping a lot. I love to sleep. I go to bed early. I go to bed about 9:30 and I wake up at 3:54 in the morning. Yeah. So, but I sleep solid all the way through. And staying sharp is, you know, through the pandemic. Before the pandemic, I drank back to Stu and Addiction Unplugged. I was before the pandemic, I drank every single day for many years, for decades. And it was something that I just used to, you know, whether I was happy, sad,
whatever. It didn't matter if I slam one back after a hard day at work. So now it's not that I have eliminated it. I have reduced my drinking tremendously, and what a game changer it has been in my life. I have reduced it to almost like 95% reduction. I still drink if I'm in a social setting and someone says, hey, do you want to have a drink? So, but there's rules: no mad, sad, or alone. The 3 rules that I incorporated to really get, because that's a hard thing to break. When
Can
you
repeat
have
that again? What were
Mad, sad,
3?
and alone.
That's
Yeah,
big.
That's huge.
Yeah, so it was something that I created boundaries and rules. And one of our friends went through an addiction program for alcohol and ended up ultimately succumbing to the detox and didn't make it through it. And I know how hard it was, because it was I fought cancer. I had 3 cancers. I thought it was like tough. Reducing your drinking after it becomes that lifelong habit is even harder. I was like, I just want that drink, drink. So, so no mad, no sad, no alone, no drinks during those 3 rules, and watch how your life transforms. It will transform your business, your life. You'll become clearer. And so, so that's what I did that. And then, with cancer was a big thing for me. I was really into working out, always have been, and being a college athlete and lifelong athlete. And then in 2013, I felt, not that I had people come up to me and say things to me like, you shouldn't wear your phone in your sports bra. And I was like, excuse me? I was like, huh? That's where it's supposed to go. That's what it's there for, So stuff like that. And I had this finger, ironically, this finger right here was turning purple. Like I would all of a sudden, I would say to my assistants, I'm like, look at my middle finger, it's like purple. And it was like numb. And they were like, we would all laugh about it. And it would just go numb for no reason and purple. Wow. And and things like that. And so my back was a little achy. And so all these signs were there, but I still wasn't listening to my body. My body was telling me. I took a photograph at my father-in-law's house, and I had this big brown spot, like that photograph up here. And we all were like, huh, so it was all these signs. And so I finally went for a facial, and the girl was putting on some, all that 7 layers of lotion. And she's like, what? It was all the way up here. She's like, what's this? And I was like, what's what? And so it was a pea size, something on my chest. And I was like, okay, that is it. All right, I get it. I'm going to the doctor. So call the doctor, and the doctor's like, it's nothing, it's bone. I'm like, this is not bone, and I've had way too many signs, so we need to do something about it. So they ended up doing some tests. They could not biopsy it because it was too close to a vein. So we had to biopsy it by surgery. They removed it. Doctor came out and said, doesn't look like cancer. You should be fine. A week later, I was called in for a immediate checkup. Just come. We just want to talk to you. I had cancer. I had breast cancer. Man. And so I was like, I was like young, and I'm like, wait. I have cancer. So I passed out, woke up, and then I said, okay, let's do this. And, back to your point, I've always been that person where I just go for it. And I took a really negative situation in my life. I fought the hell out of it and did okay. It was a long battle because it ended up being two others that came out that when I did a colonoscopy, it came back as irregular. And so that had to deal with that, and then skin cancer after that. So it was just one of those things where I was like, oh my God, one punch after another. But what I did with that opportunity to make a really boring and sad story a good one is they say, again, the 2 best days of your life are the day you were born and the day you know why. And so I realized, well, maybe I was given cancer for a reason, because I have a really strong voice, and people listen to me, and cancer needs to get kicked in the ass. And so, so I was like, I got this. I was like, let's do this. And so I was asked to join the board of Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa, Florida, which is Florida's only national cancer institute. and we have made great strides in the time that I've been associated with them. We have found a cure for anything that is any cancer related to the HPV virus. So we have now vaccinating men, young men, which has basically almost eliminated all the HPV related cancers. And we have just uncovered a vaccine for reoccurring breast cancer, estrogen receptive breast cancer, that will basically a vaccine and prevent any woman that has had that cancer before, they will never get it again. So those are big things that we're doing
That's
together.
great.
Profit. Yeah. So, they say, why me? Back to your, comment, I'm not a victim. I just said, you know what, I'm a warrior, and let's turn this negative into a positive. And that's what I did.
That's incredible. Holy moly, Kim, this is a masterclass. I'm getting some free masterclass material here, man. This is amazing.
All right. I do need a manager. So if you want to manage me or whatever, I don't know. But I basically just love to just share my story. I love the story that, we all start with that clean slate, that tapestry, and we paint all of our experiences on top of it. Mine's a complete mess. I had more issues than a magazine, health-wise, as they say, but I've gotten through it. And I hate when I hear, and I've given into it, or I'm giving up. Don't give up, fight like a mother, and find, do whatever you can to eradicate this cancer, whatever illness you have, or anything negative in your life. Get it out of your life. Eliminate or reduce the basement people in your life. If you have people that are tearing you down, wearing you down, putting out your light, get rid of them, reduce them, because those are the people that will wear at your self-worth. And, we're all just as valuable. All of us are just as important. And you don't need someone else to tell you you're not doing a good job, because you know what? You need to know you love yourself, and then the world will change, and you'll really change the world with that.
Now, listening to you, one thing is blaringly obvious to me is I make too many freaking excuses.
Yeah, no excuses.
No doubt about it. And
mine right there.
Yeah, I need one of those.
Sure. Yeah.
I love it. Matter of fact, I'm going to take a screenshot of that, and then I'll probably blow it up and put it in.
So for those that are listening to this on audio, it says, can you read your sign?
It says, your life is 100% your responsibility.
Yep.
Yeah, that is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And first, guys, I just want to thank you for one, being just vulnerable and sharing your story and sharing the struggles that you've had, because sometimes you just look at ultra successful people and you go, that's just who they are. I can't relate to that. I'm imperfect. I have issues. You know what I mean? There's a lot of power in that. And so first of all, I want to thank you for doing that.
Sure.
So I'm going to ask you, I don't know why this is coming to my head. This may seem like an incredibly random question. If you can't or don't want to answer it, feel free. But I want to take 3 challenges that you had. So you had cancer. You were drinking kind of heavy. You had a pandemic hit your business really hard. Can you contrast between those 3 a little bit as to how how the difficulties were different almost between those? Does that make sense?
No, it definitely I get what you're asking for. Each one of them was a challenge. And, if we look at it as, such, and not as like, oh, why is me? I can't stand when people say, oh, that, why didn't it happen to me? Well, you should be glad for people and say, you know what, great. I'm so glad for their success, because, it will come back to you. What you order on the menu is what you get served. And that's the most important thing. If you're out there miserable and you're not smiling, you're not trying to find the silver lining in every situation that God presents or your universe presents to you, you're not hearing the message. You're not hearing the lesson that you're being taught. School is open and you need to learn in every single situation in your life. You know, one thing I have to say that came to me when I was in Denver for a conference, an industry conference, and I was really struggling with how do I get my message out there to the world. My podcast was really suffering on the analytics side, meaning that people were only listening to like 10 minutes of my podcast. And I was like, all right, I got to come up with some sort of, solution. So I asked my marketing firm at the time, I'm like, how do we take my podcast and slice it up and put a micro content out there? And they were like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, like a trailer, in iMovie, you can create a trailer. And they're like, no, doesn't exist. So I went out there and I researched it and realized that it didn't exist. And then I'm on the treadmill in Denver. I remember the gym exactly. It was in the Denver Hilton or whatever hotel is
right there.
And I get a call from my friend Stu, who is a longtime friend, 20 something years now, 30 years. And he says, man, I love your podcasts. And I'm thinking about, doing something. And I said, well, tell me about it. And he says, when you share your podcast and you say, listen from 2 minutes to 3 minutes and 12 seconds, do you ever listen to that? I'm like, no. And we started talking. I'm like, I'm having an issue on slicing up my podcast into many different segments so that people will listen to the whole thing, because there's obviously highs and lows in every podcast, but how do we capture these little 60-second clips and get those out there? And that was when it all basically birthed. The idea of Pick Cherries, and Pick Cherries is a platform that we have created that allows listeners. I'm a podcast listener. I love it. And I'm sure you guys do, and you're a podcaster. And it allows all of us to take, let's say, a part of this podcast, and we want to share it with somebody as an inspiration or training or whatever it might be. You can go into Pick Cherries, download it in iOS and Android, and then take a 60-second clip and share that with the world, with your social platform, WhatsApp, email, text message, whichever, all that stuff. And so it's really cool. It's like TikTok for grownups, if you will.
And it is a game changer. We're on it right now.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah. And just figuring it out. And we've sent a number of other podcasters over there to Stu as well, because
it's a great.
It is.
In the audience that you're listening, if you're not on it, you should check it out, download it, become a listener, or you can, if you're a podcaster, sign up, opt in. It's all free, but it really isn't. It's one word that describes it, or actually 2 or 3. I'm sorry, I like to, but it's a community that is inclusive and diverse. So we are open to everyone that wants to upload their podcast. Obviously, we will have some controls so to make sure that we're all clean in our content and providing a safe platform for all people to share their love for podcasts. And I'm excited about it. The press release comes out next week, worldwide press release. And I really see this being a solution for many people because, training is expensive. But so many great podcasts out there. Like, how many nuggets can we get from this podcast that we can share with somebody that's having a bad day, or somebody that, is trying to increase their culture, improve their culture? There's all these little things that we talked about today that we just can't, send the whole thing and expect someone to listen to it. So Pick Cherries, I'm most excited about that. And so back to your point about, not becoming a victim, if it doesn't exist, create it. If you've been given a challenge in your life, then look at it as such. What is the message that what is the message that is coming out of this? What is the lesson that you are being taught? Like I said, school is in, you're a student, pay attention, and then create the solution or overcome the challenge, because to succumb to it, you know what? No one wants to wallow in it. We all want everyone to succeed in life.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to use Pick Cherries to make a little clip about Pick Cherries on our podcast.
Good.
But but it's cool because you guys, you really hit a big need, because I've been, this whole, the evolution of the long format podcast, I think is incredible. Because one of the things that it does is it allows for the conversation to grow into areas that you cannot get in a 5 or 10 minute discussion with someone. But
Absolutely.
then it's been so hard, as you've said, to then extract those and get them out. You know what I mean? So I'm super stoked about Pick Cherries.
It goes back to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has a 3-hour podcast, but then he has the JRE clips, right? Joe Rogan podcast clips.
Right.
I said masterclass. You're giving us a masterclass. I see the MMC mini master classes with those Pick Cherries right there, right?
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, if you guys want to manage me, I have no time, but if you want to tell me when to show up, I'll talk.
No, we're behind you 100%, man. This has been fantastic. I can't thank you enough for sharing your words of wisdom and such. And right after we sign off, stick around for a second. But this has been fantastic. I've benefited greatly from this conversation.
Well, they say every situation you gotta take that nugget away from it, and so hopefully I've shared enough little nuggets to make you become 1% better than yesterday.
You have indeed.
Thank you. You've over delivered, so we're in good shape.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you both better, and I look forward to returning in a few weeks when we can talk about two workforce challenges that we all face as a country and as a world, and hopefully we can tackle this together.
Looking forward to it.